Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Do It Yourself. This is part 2 of the laminate Pergo installation, and I want to show you a few things that I've done so far. Now, what I've done here, I've actually cut under the door frame, and this is about 3/4 of an inch. Alright, I wanted to show everyone some of the tools that I use for the flooring. Now, the biggest one that I used and the one that got the most use was a table saw, and this one's a Ryobi with a 10-inch blade, 15-amp motor, and on the blade I use the Diablo 10-inch. It's 80 or 84, the ultra finish. This works really well for laminate flooring, and so it's got the red color to it. And some of the other cuts that I used for some of the smaller cuts and some of the weird angles and the pieces that I had to go around the baseboards, I used the scroll saw or the jigsaw, and I used Bosch blades, just wood blades, 10 teeth per inch on those, and that works really well for those weird cuts. And then around the baseboards, I used this one here, and the heads, interchangeable. You can use this one or the straight one, and that's great for going around your door frames or cutting around your door frames. And I didn't use this, but you can use this instead of the table saw, just a regular circular saw, but it's much easier as far as keeping your lines straight using the table saw. For the quarter rounds, or you can use it for your baseboards, what I was using is a miter saw, and this is really nice because when you use a miter saw you can change your angles. Start it out at 0, you got up to 50 degrees and then up to 50 degrees either way, so you can do those, there's different angles. So these are the two of the blades that I've used to cut under the door frame. They work extremely well. One's more of a half circle, the other one's just a solid straight line there. And then what I also used was a 3 What I've also used was a 3/4 inch piece of plywood here, and I just put it up to the door frame, and then went ahead and used the saw with the blade on the end and just cut all along there, and that way the Pergo or laminate can fit underneath there where it's supposed to. And what I've done in the past, I've saved the T-molding and the rail for last, but I've always ended up having to cut the pieces short enough, or I've had to gone back afterwards and cut them again because I made them a little bit too long. So what I decided to do this time is to go ahead and adhere the track next to the end here, next to the tile, and then you just take a piece of T-molding and put it up against there, and that way you can determine how far away from your tile you want it. And I would recommend at least a 1/4 inch or so from the edge of your tile or transition, whatever you're transitioning from. And so that's what I did, and I'm doing that before I do anything else, before I lay out the plastic or anything. And then, as you can see on the other side, I made a 3/8 of a, or 3/4 of an inch cut here, and that way the laminate will fit underneath, and then I'll still have about a 1/4 inch of space underneath there for it to move around. Alright, and I want to show you, for this installation, I'm going north to south on the planks. And what I wanted to show you first was, when you're doing this, you can lay out all your Pergo, your laminate, and go all the way across the room if you like, just to get a good idea of how far or how many planks you're going to be using. And so if you don't do that, you'll want to do the math. These are about 4 7/8 wide. So what you'd want to do is measure across, and if you're going to be left with, you know, 1 inch or 1.5 inches, maybe less than 1.5 inches of a piece, you'll want to go ahead and cut your first piece, you know, about halfway, or, you know, maybe at 2 inches. You want to cut your first piece at about halfway of the board, or 2 inches or so, and that way you're going to be left with a little bit more than 1 inch or 1.5 inches when you finish up at the other end. And I would say the easiest way to start, you know, once you get your plastic down, would be on a long wall. But you know, I disagree on that, only because you want to control, you know, what it's going to look like if you've got a lot of turns, or see, in my case, I've got this molding here, and then I've got another turn here to get into the T-molding, the track right there. So what I want to do is just to get that done and out of the way first. That way I'm not going to be surprised when I get to this side of it and things don't work out right. So I'll go ahead and lay the plastic and then go from there. After you have your plastic down, you're good to go. But for the plastic, you just want to make sure you have an 8-inch overlap between each layer. Say if you don't have a big enough sheet to cover your whole area that you're doing, and try to get it as flat as possible. I know you're going to have a little bit of bubbles on certain sides, but those should push down once you get your flooring down. So when you go to your first piece, you want to make sure you don't have seams in your doorway. So for this installation here, I went ahead and cut about a 1.5 foot piece to start with. And then you want to get your 3/8 spacers. And for these, they're just back to back. The small side goes on the big side, and then the same on the top and the bottom there. And so, and for the first row, you want to trim off, if you have a tab on the front side or the top side, and then on the back side, you want to trim off that too. That way it's going to fit flush against your wall or your baseboard, whatever you're putting it against. So, and that way your quarter round or your baseboards will fit, you know, right on top of your flooring, and it'll maintain its float. That way, that's what these spacers are for. So, and also you want to stagger your Pergo or your laminate, and you want to stagger them so that there's so many spaces or so many inches in between each piece, so that you don't have seams one on top of the other. And so for this installation, it is a matter of, I think it's 12 inches. Yeah, you want a greater than 12 inches seam. So like for this piece here, you could use a full board, and then your seam would be located somewhere in the middle of the second board, and you'd be okay with that. Okay, I just want to show you the basics on how to fit these in here. Now they're all going to be, for at least this way, for this application, they're going to be tongue and groove. So what you do, you basically go in at a 45-degree angle, and then when you get all the row done, then you want to go back and push, and then push down, and then make sure that these are locked as you're putting them in. And then you want to check visually the whole surface of it on each plank, because I've had them where they've had halo marks and scratch marks. So those are the ones you don't want to use. You want to make sure you get rid of those before you lay them down. And then on how to mark the ends, what you want to do is, see the tongue and groove here, this will go into this groove right here. So what you do, you flip it upside down, put it up against your spacer, and then you draw your line across right there. And that's the way you measure for the end pieces. And there again, you just want to make sure you have 12 inches in between each of your seams from plank to plank. Now it doesn't matter from this plank to this plank, but just from each plank you want to make sure you have a 12-inch space between your seams. Alright, I wanted to show you a couple of defective ones. Here's one here. There's another one here, and then I got a couple rows in, and I didn't notice this, so I'll have to take out some rows. But you can see how it has a white mark on the one side, and it has another white mark over here on this side. So yeah, those are the things you want to just watch out for, and you know, if you don't catch them, best thing to do is just take them out. You know, go back if you're not too far and replace it. And then I wanted to show you too how this turned out next to the doorway. Now what I did about a 1/4 inch gap, and I'm going to let this set for a day or two, a couple days before I put the T-molding down into the track. But the track is nice and stuck down with the construction adhesive. And there's probably about a 1/4 inch to 3/8 or so gap between the tile, the track, and the flooring. So that way that molding will fit right over both of those. And then when you get near the end of your room, you want to pull your plastic against the other wall and go ahead and cut off the excess. And you can re-tape underneath if you want, but yeah, just smooth it out and then just push it up against that wall or baseboard or whatever you have there, and then just recut it. That way it won't bunch up on you when you're getting near the end. And then you'll want to do the same process of just sliding it into there. I know it's a little different doing it from the opposite side. I'm just sliding it in, pushing it in there, and then when you get done with your row, just put your hands on both sides of the seam and push down, and you should be able to get the whole row in pretty easily. Okay, once you get your last piece done, what you can do is go around the corners. And what I did, I just tapped it, moved it, tapped it, moved it, tapped it. That way I can go ahead and put my 1/4 round down. And then by the doors or the archways, pretty much the same thing. And then tapped it down
And that's once you get all your pieces done on the flooring. And if you have a transition from a bathroom to the flooring, it's a good idea to put a bead of silicone around your track. And that'll help prevent water from seeping in. All right.
Well, thanks for watching. This is Mike from Mike's Do It Yourself, and good luck on your next home or automotive project.